Welcome to 9394, a music podcast with Travis Roy. I hope you are well. Every now and then we like to get outside of the regular confines of 1993 and 1994 in this show, investigate some albums that came out in the early 90s, stuff we would have been listening to in 93 and 94. And my buddy Eron Worley has come back to the show to talk about one of the biggest albums from that era for me personally, the Lemonheads, and their album from 1991, It's a Shame About Ray. Check out our conversation.
She takes me on a rockin' stroll. You won't wait cause I won't know. If I roll, I hope you'll throw a smile at me. Cause this here frame is all I've known. I won't be walking till I've grown. All I've been shown is everything I wanna see. People's knees and trucks, trees. Smile at me.
How we doing? Can you hear
Hello,
me?
my friend. Yes, I can hear you.
Great. I didn't comb my hair.
I feel like I haven't talked to you in a while. How you doing?
Doing okay, you know.
Good enough?
Yeah, still alive.
Want to get into it?
It's Lemonhead.
All right, let's Lemonhead it up.
I'm gonna try. I'm gonna try. I'm gonna try. I'm gonna try.
Eron, you've come back on the show now for, what is this, your fourth time? Third time?
I don't
I'm
know.
losing track.
I think it's 3.
Okay.
There was
Smashing Pumpkins.
Smashing Pumpkins, STP.
Uh-huh.
Is that it?
Oh, that might be it. That might be it.
Yeah.
This might be your third one. Okay.
Yeah.
So since you've come back for your third time, you've chosen an album outside of 1993 and 1994, but it's very much of the era. Which album are we doing today?
We're doing Come On Feel, right?
No, that is not
No,
right.
we're doing It's a Shame About Ray.
Yes, we're doing it.
Come On Feel is of the era. It was
Yeah.
in the
We actually could have picked a 1993 or 94 album with Come On Feel, but I'm glad you picked It's a Shame About Ray because It's a Shame About Ray is one of my all-time favorite albums, and Come On Feel I've listened to like 10 times, if that.
Yeah, man, they are like interchangeable for me. Like I always get them confused for some reason, even though I know the track lists.
Uh-huh.
But I don't know. I just listen to them both so much as an adult.
Mm-hmm.
I love them. Let's get into it.
Yeah, it's funny. Like, this is definitely one of the albums that I didn't really need to change my listening habits much to get ready for. Just because I listen to it all the time. This is one of those albums that really never left my regular listening habits. I just have always listened to this album a bunch, but never got into any of their other albums, honestly. I mean, I tried. I got Come On Feel when it came out. Yeah, I got Come On Feel when it was new, and I didn't really care for it that much.
Really?
Yeah, I don't know. This has always been just the one album. I feel like if I want to listen to them, this is the album I go to. Do you remember how you got into it, this album?
Sure do.
Tell me.
I don't know if you remember a lovely young woman in high school named Patricia Mara.
Yeah, the name sounds familiar.
Anyway, she made me a mixtape, and it started off with Confetti. And,
Nice.
I heard that, and I was like, dude, I'm in. And then, just got sold on the dulcet tones of Evan Dando.
Yeah, he is a force of nature on this album, I feel like. Maybe in other albums as well, but this is, for me, obviously, this is where he shines the most.
Yeah.
I'm not sure how I got into it exactly. It had to have been 89X, the radio station, the local radio station, 89X, or, yeah, I think that was it. I think it was 89X. And it was definitely not a cool song like Confetti. It was the Mrs. Robinson big hit.
Oh, right. Yeah, that was tacked on.
That was tacked on very much for the second. This album was released on June 2nd, 1992, and then it was re-released before the end of the year, I'm pretty sure, with the addition of Mrs. Robinson on it because it was like a big single.
Right.
I remember not even being that crazy about the single Mrs. Robinson as a kid, but when you were, poring over your list of potential cassettes to get from Columbia House and you had 13 options, like, as a pretty ignorant 12-year-old, I was like able to figure out, okay, I want these 3 or 4 or 5 albums, and then the rest I was just like, I don't know, I've heard of this band, I've heard of this band, I've heard of this band. And this was very much one of those, like, I really wasn't sure how much I was going to like it or get into it. But I remember by November, I remember being at a Thanksgiving at a friend's house or a family friend's house, and just ignoring everyone and being like off in a corner on my headphones, like listening to this album for like the 700th time. So it wasn't that long before this was in my veins.
I get that. The Columbia House thing, that's how me and Corey got into the Sundays. I think we got reading, writing, and arithmetic.
Yep, I got, what's the album after that? I got that from Columbia House. It was the album after, anyways.
Yeah.
Columbia House was an important way to get into new music because you could take those kind of chances and be like, I don't really know what's going on here, but I'll check it out. So let's get into the big question right off the bat, because this is a really short album. This is only a half hour long. There's not like a ton of songs on it. Which one is your favorite?
Oh my God. Oh my God. You're doing this.
That's how it goes.
Okay, probably the one we did, Hannah and Gabby.
Got me watching your eyes, watching things go by outside. Out the window of a train. Easy sipping, I'm just seeing it fly left to right. Pour the milk and I'll say when. I'm not wandering around. You're the one thing I found. I don't mean to bring you down. I'm not wandering around.
They just roll one after the other. It's a great album.
It's a very, very comprehensive album.
Yeah.
So Hannah and Gabby, you and I covered in your project,
Yeah.
Sidewinder and Symbol. I'll include that somewhere in this recording.
Yeah. We can go out on it.
Yeah, okay, yeah, let's go out on it. That sounds good. Hannah and Gabby, featuring Skunk Baxter, which I didn't know until fucking yesterday.
I don't know who Skunk Baxter is.
Skunk Baxter is, he plays the electric slide on this song.
Oh, okay.
But he is from the Doobie Brothers and Steely Dan.
Oh, all right.
Yeah, session musician he's been in a ton of other stuff too, but he's been around since the 70s at least.
That's cool.
Yeah, it is pretty cool. And I didn't know, speaking of not knowing, I don't know, I always sucked at looking up. I knew Evan Dana was in the band. I'm like, and then there's other people too. I just didn't really know or care. And I knew at some point that Juliana Hatfield had played with them, but I never knew until fucking this morning when I finally looked into Wikipedia that she plays bass on this album and that's her doing the backup vocals. I don't know how, I knew that she was in the band at one point. I just never thought that she was on this album because this is like their fourth or fifth album or something.
Well, yeah, they had those when they were a little more punk rock, I think.
Yeah. And I never listened to that stuff, so I kind of just thought that she had been part of that. And here I am, listening to Juliana Hatfield in 1993, the same time I'm listening to this album, and just had no idea.
You never connected, huh? That's funny.
Yeah, it's dumb.
What's Out Show was dumb. Like, me and Dana went to, they had the 30-year reunion tour for It's a Shame About Ray.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought maybe they'd play the whole album through like they do.
That's what should happen.
No. And Juliana Hatfield was touring with them. She didn't play with the band. She's opened up an acoustic set.
Oh, that's weird. Even though they're playing songs from the album that she was...
It was the 30th anniversary tour, yeah. It was so strange.
I had tickets for that tour, and I got really sick. I was sick, and I was supposed to go with our friend Mike Govier.
Oh, okay.
He backed out for some reason at the last second. In between not feeling well and going alone, I was like, fuck it, I didn't go. But it's one of those things I'm probably always going to regret.
He's been touring a lot, over the last 5-6 years.
Yeah.
So I've seen him 3 or 4 times over the last 5 years.
Yeah.
And there was some really good stuff.
But he didn't play this full album when you saw him doing the tour for the
It was crazy. The 30-year anniversry tour, and then he just played a mix of all his songs.
Oh, just a normal fucking...
Just a normal show.
What the hell is that? He's always been a little kind of classic. He's always been a little bit I'm going to do whatever people don't want me to do. It seems like it's his thing.
Yeah, he did a lot of drugs, too.
I've heard that.
Read interviews where he said he didn't remember years of his life. Crazy stuff.
It's really, I think we're probably lucky he's still alive.
Yeah, no kidding. They just put out some new music, as a matter of fact.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
I didn't catch that. As Lemonheads or as Evan?
Yeah, as Lemonheads.
Wow. Okay. Not a studio album. Must be a new, just a single or something. Because
Let me see here.
The discography.
Yeah, I think it was a single. Fear of Living, the latest release, and it's got 2 songs. It's a single.
Oh, okay. Okay. Cool.
Yeah, it came out in January.
One last thing about Hannah and Gabby. It probably has my favorite line in the album, which is, and it's such a simple line. Though it wasn't hard or far, I walked you to your car.
Yeah, man.
There's something really beautiful about that line. I don't know. It's kind of a sweet line, I guess.
Yeah, I like the sentiment of the whole song, and that guitar riff is terrific.
Yeah, that slide really does make the song in a big way. Way to go, Skunk.
Oh, yeah, big time.
Yeah. I think that for my number one, I really struggled because, like you say, this album really, the songs just run together pretty well. So it's kind of hard to settle on just one. But if I had to settle on just one, I am going to go with the eponymous song, It's a Shame About Ray.
Yeah, it's good stuff.
Yeah. Kind of meaningless, I think. I don't know. I mean, I know it's like something to do with some article he read, and he probably just kind of spun off from there lyrically, but it's a pretty kind of melancholy song on an album that, I don't know, what's the overall vibe of this album? It's not a melancholy vibe, it's not a punk rock vibe, but it has like these melancholy and kind of punk rock moments.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it's got a unique sound. I mean, under the core of it all is punk rock, like, right? They were like a three-piece.
Mm-hmm.
You put, distorted guitars to it and maybe, change the mix a little bit. It's a punk rock album.
Right, but you put acoustic guitars in their hand, or at least in the hand of Evan Dando, and you slow it down quite a bit for most of the songs, overwhelmingly. And you end up with something, that is, I guess, very just indie rock, but like almost folk-based. There's not an accident there's like two 60s covers on this album.
Right.
There's some of that kind of going on. I feel like he's probably a big Nick Drake fan or something. I don't know.
It's like punk rock Americana. I don't know.
Yeah, I think that's it. I think you nailed it. Punk rock Americana, but maybe like Americana punk rock.
Yeah, probably.
It is a distinct album. It's a really simple album at the same time. It's not like it's overly complex.
No, not at all. I mean, that's the thing. You can write a 3-chord pop song. It's not as easy as people think it is. Not to make it memorable, anyway. He made a whole album that's memorable, in my opinion.
Yeah, every song on here stands out. What about in terms of being your least favorite, though? If every song on here is so good, could you pick a least good, or at least one that hits you the least?
Well, we've already talked. We're kicking Mrs. Robinson off the album, so we won't even include that.
It's easily the least good song on the album.
Yeah.
I had no problem choosing that as my least favorite song on the album, even though it got me into them, and I had a feeling that you were going to pick it too.
Probably Ceiling Fan in My Spoon. I guess I could deal without that one.
Started out the day, jello in the sand. Went out of my way not to understand. Walking through the tree, don't you look at me. See, I'm not myself, only mystery. So afraid, that's my tune. Ceiling fan in my spoon.
I was going to ask you.
But it's fun to say, like, in my spoon! In my spoon!
I was going to ask you after, because I assumed, like I said, that we were both going to choose Mrs. Robinson. I was going to say, okay, what about if it's not a cover? And then, yep, mine would also be a Ceiling Fan in My Spoon, which it's the most disjointed song on the album, right? It's like the most raucous and kind of unwieldy.
And it's still fun, though. That's the thing. Like,
Yeah. In my spoon!
It's so ridiculous.
Yeah. It's a fine little song, even though it's kind of funny that it would have been like the ending song on the album almost.
Yeah, that'd be a good album ender. But then Frank Mills is kind of tacked onto, it seems like. But
it makes Mrs. Robinson feel more tacked on to me. You know what I mean? Because Frank Mills really feels like an album ender, especially after Celia Abandoned My Spoon. And then,
or like a secret song.
Yeah.
Track 89.
Yeah, because it's so different from the rest of the stuff that they do. And unlike Mrs. Robinson that you recognize and you know it's a cover, I didn't know that Frank Mills was a cover for a really long time. I should have listened to the lyrics, but I was really young. I didn't know that talking about the Hells Angels and white crash helmets, that's very
I had no
1960s.
idea. In the 90s, I had no idea, when I was a kid.
Yeah. I was like, why would he be hung up on $2? Like, that's such a small amount of money.
I want my $2.
His white crash helmet, he has golden chains on his leather jacket, and on the back are written the names Mary and Mom and Hell's Angels.
So I thought, though, since this is an album that we both have a lot of fond memories of. Well, actually, do you have any fond specific memories of this? I talked about Thanksgiving, but
all kinds. Well, me and Rebecca used to cruise and listen to this album a lot.
Yeah.
That was fun. And then I guess this album kind of took me through when I left home. It got me through leaving home when I was 19, joined the Air Force. I went down to Florida, did all my training and stuff, and it got me, really got me through, being lonely and all that stuff.
Yeah.
So it was this and The Sundays and De La Souls. So those three albums really got me through, like just leaving home initially.
Mm-hmm.
It's this one, The Sundays self-titled one, and De La Souls Stakes Is High. Those are like, home for me.
Yeah. I could see them all like working together, obviously, especially Sundays and Lemonheads. Okay, so I'm going to do something I don't ordinarily do on the show. But since this is an album that you and I both love so much, this is top, I don't know, it's in my top 10. It's probably in my top 10. It's probably in my top 10, like of all time. I really love this album. So what's your second favorite song on this album?
Oof. Probably just Bit Part.
I just want a bit part in your life. I just want a bit part in your life.
I want a bit part in your life. A walk on will be fine. I just want a bit part in your life. I want a bit part in your life. Rehearsing all the time. I just want a bit part in your life.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. It's so fun. And me and Dana, she loves it too, so we sing that song all the time.
When I was a kid, I 100% was convinced that the opening, like, screaming woman was Rosie Perez.
No kidding.
I was convinced. I don't know why I thought that.
It reminded me of that lady that robs the diner in
Pulp Fiction?
Pulp Fiction.
Yeah, Amanda Plummer.
Yeah.
I can see that.
I don't know who it is, and I never looked it up or bothered to see.
I never did. I mean, it makes sense for it to be Julianne Hatfield.
Right, yeah.
It's probably her since it's not listed anywhere. Who knows? I don't know what her regular screaming voice sounds like. But yeah, that's a fun little song. Another one that's like 2 minutes, very easy. You get the feeling they probably wrote it in a fucking afternoon, but it's so memorable and just catchy as hell.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I had to pick a second favorite too because we haven't even talked our underrated yet. But I didn't want to pick for my underrated. I didn't want to pick my second favorite song. And my second favorite song is Rudderless, which you mentioned earlier.
Waiting for something to break. Left my heart out too big. Nothing there.
I love that weird, like, discordant kind of, those first, and it's like really like,
yeah, it's good stuff.
yeah, it's really a solid song, and it's like, there's a real feeling of depression in this pretty upbeat album. You know what I mean? And this is maybe the most nakedly depressed song, like a ship without a rudder, you know, just right over there, over and over that, and talking about just going nonstop until you're crashing on the plane and all that. This one definitely, I think, is the most, this and Drug Buddy are the most like, but even Drug Buddy has like a more kind of, I'm okay with being in the gutter feeling. This one's like, there's something wrong with my life, rudderless, and I am just adrift.
Right. Drug Buddy's got that juxtaposition of just, it's like Mad World, you know.
How so?
It's written in such, it's in a major key, and it's kind of upbeat, but the lyrics are just very, very depressing.
Yeah, right? He's talking about they're going for a walk, not because they're going for a walk, because they're going looking for drugs, and they probably don't have a car, right? They're talking about walking down the street and cars driving by them, and they're just like, they sound like a couple of junkies. Yeah,
that's exactly what it's about, like a couple of junkies out to get drugs, and like, I don't know. It's just like a sweet song at the same time.
There's like this keyboard in there, like it's all just kind of like an organ or something. It's all very like, yeah, it's a really sweet kind of feeling, mellow song.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is a little grim when you look more deeply at it. Even though the song's called My Drug Buddy, which is not, like, it's not hidden. There's nothing suppressed here, and there's no shame. There's no shame in My Drug Buddy whatsoever.
Yeah, that's why I kind of compare it to, you know, Mad World. Not the cover version, you know, the original one.
I assume the Tears for Fears version, yeah.
Yeah, that one's you just want to dance to, and then you start listening to it, like, what the? What guy? Doing what now? Okay.
They're sad. Okay, so now that we've talked about almost every song on the album, do you have one you could choose as your underrated?
Underrated. Probably Kitchen.
Thrilled to be in the same postcode as you. I'll tell you things I know you'd like to know. Treat you to cake every night. Suddenly talking, it'll make you cry. Smile at me, I'll hold you really tight. Follow you into bed, run around till morning. We'll stay awake all night. Repeat the same stories, but of course never in front of friends. How it all started in the kitchen. Hey!
It all started in the kitchen. It's another one that's just fun. Ooh, bop, bop, ooh. I like it.
I don't know that the bop bop ba woo part is my favorite part of the album, but I do think it's a fun song. And it's funny that song is co-written by Nick Dalton, who ended up playing bass after Juliana Hatfield left.
Oh, okay.
Which, again, I learned this morning by looking at Wikipedia. I'm not an expert. But yeah, that song is pretty fun, pretty light. It kind of feels like it's about an affair. Is that what you always got?
You know, I don't know. I always took it as just like a relationship. I don't know. I didn't see what kind of relationship it was. I
think it's a line that's like, but of course never if among friends, like that whole bit we're talking about, like,
oh, right, yeah, I thought, yeah, I get that. I don't, of course never with the friends, how it all started in the kitchen. I don't know. I thought maybe it was just like maybe one of the people had like shame about the relationship, or you know, wanted to keep it a secret. That's the way I always interpreted it.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, who knows?
Yeah,
it could be about nothing. Like some of the stuff seems like it could be kind of about nothing. Like Ceiling Fan of My Spoon, although
did a lot of drugs. That guy.
Yeah, Ceiling fan in my spoon could be like a heroin reference for all I know. But yeah, Kitchen is a pretty good one. I think that for my underrated, I'm going to go with a song that never was my favorite on the album, but listening to it the last couple weeks, it's the song that just keeps going into my head, which is Allison's Starting to Happen.
Oh, that's great.
She'd shake it up, but it's hard to make out now, it's plain to see. I couldn't cook to save myself, found my life a recipe. I never looked at her this way before, but now she's all I see. Allison's starting to happen, Allison's starting to happen, Allison's starting to happen to me.
Yeah, that's a great one.
It's the most punk rock on here for sure. It has this edge to it, especially by the end when you can hear like the screaming in the background and Allison's getting her tits pierced, Allison's growing a mohawk, and it's just like, yeah, it's the most punk rock song on the album, and it's very, very catchy.
Yeah.
Yeah, the whole album is catchy.
Yeah, and then Confetti is just because the nostalgia of that song. I love that song a lot too. Can't get enough of that one. It's short and sweet too.
Another one I thought would maybe be my favorite. On a different day, I could have maybe picked Confetti as my favorite. I think it's really interesting to write a song about your parents' divorce and take the perspective of your father, pretty much take the side of the father who caused the divorce, but he wasn't happy.
Right.
As someone who's, my parents got divorced, I remember being like a little kid and trying to explain to my grandmother that I was glad that my parents got divorced because it was better for them and therefore better for us, because then like everyone's just happier that way. And I was like 8 or 9 when I was telling her this, and she got so upset.
Oh, no.
And I remember that conversation, but then growing up, I kind of learned about this song being about that. Because yeah, like you, this is an album that when I moved to Florida at a different date, it was one I stayed with. When I went through a bunch of different musical, very myopic musical pathways where I was just really listening to like 1 or 2 genres, this album still would be in rotation even then. So like it's always been like a touch point in my life. And that song is one of those songs that just gives me comfort in kind of a weird way.
Oh yeah, for sure. And there's not a song on it, I'm always going to exclude Mrs. Robinson that I get sick of or whatever. And then, Rock and Stroll is like such a strong opener, like a strong album opener.
Yeah.
This is what the album's going to be. Tell you
cute.
what it's going to sound like, and yeah. And you go from there. Love it.
Yeah, it's really just an incredibly cohesive album. Like the production is really good, but then the order of the songs was really well plotted out. They just bleed into each other so fluidly.
Yeah, it's like making your favorite mixtape.
Yeah. I think that's kind of why I never listened to much other Lemonheads. Because Lemonheads. I don't know why I said it like that. Well, I don't know why. I think it's why I never listened to that much other Lemonheads, because I always just feel like if I want to listen to them, this does everything I want them to do for me. And it's not like I never listen to other stuff, but every time I do, I just don't have the nostalgia for it, and it just doesn't grab me the same way. So I'm just like, I'm good with this.
Yeah.
Not fair, I guess, but
I celebrate their entire catalog pretty much.
And I'm glad you do.
To me, it continued on. I don't feel like a whole lot changed. Maybe like not every album was, banger after banger, but there's a lot of good stuff going forward.
Well, they didn't do a ton after this, though, right? They only did, 4 or 5 more albums, and 2 of them were covers albums?
Yeah, after they did Come On Field and they Car Button Cloth, then there was a 11-year absence, and then they came out with the Lemonheads.
Which, that one's not bad. I've listened to that one.
I like that one.
I guess I've listened to all of them except for that last covers album, Varshan 2 or whatever. I never listened to that one.
Yeah, Varshan 2.
And some of the earlier stuff, I never checked that out either, to be honest.
I did.
Gets pretty rough, right?
Yeah, that's the thing. Just that real lo-fi, I don't know what, like garage punk or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
Hey, well, I didn't hate it.
Yeah, but it's not the band that it turned into.
No, not at all. Because as a matter of fact, I remember I was like, oh, Shame About Ray. Got that. Of course. And then I went and the next one I got was Hate Your Friends. I'm like, what is this? This isn't the same band. And it really wasn't the same band at all. You're right. I never really listened to those ones a whole lot.
I had a similar experience. I don't think I got Hate Your Friends, but I remember listening to it somewhere and being like, okay. And then I got like Come On Feel, and I was already kind of like, especially because I was at that age where like, if it's too popular, that's a real problem for 14-year-old Travis. People like it. They know who this band is that I'm listening to, so it must not be good anymore. That was kind of the mindset I have. So I'm looking forward to doing that one on this show at some point so I could give it a more fair shake. But I was really happy that you wanted to talk about this album first because, this is creme de la creme. This is about as good as it gets for indie rock of the 1990s.
Oh, yeah. By far, because I wasn't at this point. It was strange for me. At this point, I'm like 13, 14. I don't know, somewhere.
Mhm.
I might have been like a junior. No, like a sophomore in high school.
Mm-hmm.
Like Pixies, I was like, I can't listen to the Pixies. Like they were too popular or too cool. But at the same time, I was like totally into Smashing Pumpkins. It was strange.
No, I think that we were all doing that, picking and choosing a little bit.
So yeah, it was wild. But this is definitely one that has been with me for, whatever it is, 30 years, 30 something years.
Good. Do you have anything else you want to say about it or Lemonheads before we move on to the next thing?
I don't. I think everybody should go listen to this album immediate.
I think that's great advice.
Yeah.
All right. So for the end of our conversation here, I am taking the easy route because I'm lazy.
Yeah.
This album came out on June 2nd of 1992, the first version of this album, the version without Mrs. Robinson on it. I couldn't get a date for the second one. But if you and I had gone to Brighton Cinema 9, the movie theaters, on the date that this came out, June 2nd, these 9 movies likely would have been what we're playing. I don't know exactly what was playing. I'm going to give you 9 movies. You tell me any memories you have of any of these movies and which one you would see if it was June 2nd, 1992. Okay. Or if you today could go back to June 2nd, 1992. Your 12-year-old self's tastes notwithstanding. Okay?
All right, here we go.
So, your options are, in no particular order, Sister Act with Whoopi. Big hit.
Oh, yeah.
Big hit. Far and Away, which I just did on my other podcast called Cinema 9, oddly enough. Remember that movie, Far Away, with Tom Cruise and Nicole Kidman?
I started listening to it, so.
Oh, that episode you did? Okay.
Yeah.
The movie, kind of a sweeping epic. Speaking of sweeping epics, Encino Man would be an option.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. No Wheeze in the Juice. Never forget.
No Wheeze in the Juice.
Alien 3.
Yeah.
Early David Fincher feature that a lot of people forget about. Yeah. Lethal Weapon 3. This is the one that's got Joe Pesci kind of like coming out between Murtaugh and Riggs on the cover, like with his dyed blonde hair. The Water Dance with Eric Stoltz and Helen Hunt and Wesley Snipes, which I know very little about.
Nope.
Probably would have been in theaters. Poison Ivy. Remember Poison Ivy?
I don't.
I want to say, I gotta look it up because I think that I took it for granted that I knew for sure what this is. I should double check now that we're actually talking. Poison Ivy is, Drew Barrymore. I'll give you the synopsis. A seductive teen befriends an introverted high school student and schemes her way into the lives of her wealthy family.
Yes, okay, so I'm more familiar with Poison Ivy 3, where Jamie Presley is naked for like 85% of that movie.
Yes, it did spawn a series of films like of the Emmanuel variety.
Yeah, and I definitely know Jamie Presley was in one of them. Maybe Alyssa Milano was in one of them too, I think.
Sounds right. It sounds right. It was a very special run of movies in the early 90s. Also, the movie K2 was in theaters with Michael Biehn about like climbing a big mountain, which I actually think I saw in theaters. I remember seeing that. And then lastly, we have Folks! ! Starring Tom Selleck and Donna Mache.
Let me tell you, out of those movies, how many I've seen. 2 of them. Seen two of those movies.
I'm going to guess which movies you've seen.
All right, go for it.
You saw Encino Man.
I did.
And you saw Alien 3.
That's correct. The rest of all, this is all garbage to me. Like, I'm just looking at it, I'm like, I'll never watch these movies.
I'll tell you what, I saw every one of these movies except for Poison Ivy and The Water Dance.
All right.
Yeah.
I don't think I saw any Lethal Weapon movies. Like, they always look just dumb to me. I'm like, I'm not bothering with this crap.
I don't think you're missing anything. I've been thinking about bringing them on Cinema 9 for a while, but I mean, I remember watching them all, just kind of like, it felt like I was doing my duty as a member of society. Like, people like this thing. I better watch it so I know what people are talking about. And never really.
I did watch Loaded Weapon.
That's a fine film. That's a fine film. No complaints there. So which one are you going to see in theaters if you can go back?
Well, I did see Alien 3 in theaters, so I don't need to do that.
I did too.
So I guess Poison Ivy, because it's most likely to have a naked hot chicken.
Okay, maybe in one of the theaters downtown during the day. Going in a trench coat. Yeah, I remember seeing Alien 3 in theaters.
I remember like looking around when they showed like the 2 main characters dead. Like at the beginning, they die in the plane crash. 2 main characters from Aliens.
Oh.
Can't remember their names now. The little girl,
The little
she's
girl.
dead. And the other guy that got away, dead.
Yeah, it's like, we're going to undo everything that was happy about the last one.
Just like, oh, okay, whatever. Here we go.
I think if I was going back in theaters and I was going to revisit any of these, shit, these are not great options I'm giving you, but that's what happened with the time.
That's the world we live in.
That's the world we live in. Fuck it. I'm seeing folks.
Still, I don't even remember what that. You said that one was about something that
Tom Selleck's character takes in his aging parents. His father is early into dementia, and his father's played by Don Ameche, and it's like a dramedy. I have no idea if it'd be any good whatsoever or not. Last time I watched it was probably 92 or 93.
Take it to the show. Take it to the show.
But I just watched Far and Away, and I have no desire to see Sister Act probably ever again in my life, despite the fact that it was the biggest hit out of all these other than Lethal Weapon 4, like by far.
She had a string of hits in the 90s that I never saw.
Whoopi?
Never saw. Yeah.
Some of them were good. I liked Jumpin' Jack Flash, but I think that was actually the 80s, but whatever.
Yeah, who knows? I mean, the movies I was going to in the 90s were like, when it was just, I had nothing else to do, and we're like, fine. Yeah, we'll go see Ninja Turtles 3. Let's do that. And then we'll watch Mortal Kombat.
Yes.
Like crap like that.
No, that's what we were saying.
I just went to garbage night, or dates or something. Mm-hmm. I remember Jurassic Park. I saw that in the theater.
Clever girl.
Of course.
And I saw Titanic.
97.
Yeah.
Out of our framework here.
These are just, Alive. I saw that movie Alive in theaters.
Did you watch the new version of that same story, Society of the Snow?
No.
It's incredible. It is really good. Yeah, it was fucking awesome. It was not.
I'll have to check that out because I read the book too.
Yeah, I read the book also.
It's on my shelf still.
It's not based on the Piers, whatever his name was, book, but it is based on one of the survivors' book that he wrote. That
that's
probably
cool.
was in Spanish or whatever.
Text me the title of that after the show. I'll watch it.
We'll do. Aaron, thank you for coming back on 93.94. I do hope you come back on again, and don't stay away for so long next time.
Yeah, it's always a pleasure.
All right, buddy. Thank you.
Yeah.
I'm a wandering around. You're the one thing I found. I don't mean to bring you down. I'm out wandering around. Kinda hoped you wouldn't.
A big happy thanks to Aaron for coming back on the show to talk about this album that we love. Always great to talk to him. And as promised, what you're listening to is a cover version of Hannah and Gabby that he and I did together. I mean, he did most of it. He does all the music, and I sang. If you want to hear more of this kind of thing, he does this with me and many of my other friends, many who've been on this show before, including Christian Haraminski and Eric Brandstrom, who is, of course, my co-host from my movie podcast, Cinema 9. If you want to hear more from Aaron, go to SoundCloud and look for Beer Through Straws. That's THRU, like drive-through. Beer Through Straws. He used to call it Ansible Sidewinder, but I think he figured out that that's a fucking mouthful, so he changed it to Beers Through Straws. Always looking for new guests on the show. You could be a friend of mine, you could be a complete stranger, doesn't matter. Just reach out to 9394podcast@gmail.com or find me on Facebook, or you could just say hi, that's cool too. As always, I ask that you please rate, review, follow, subscribe, do all the social media crap, platform stuff, It helps. I appreciate it. And yeah, we'll wrap it up right there for now. Thank you, everybody. Take her easy.
9394, a music podcast with Travis Roy, is a labor of love. It is not and never will be monetized. Please don't sue.